The US media would have you believe that electric car sales have not increased this year. In fact, they've gone down, but that's not even true. Over the first 10 months of this year, used EV sales have risen by 64% and new electric car sales have increased. These are the numbers. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. And I want to say a big thank you to those of you who've come on board and supported us on Patreon over the last week. It's been a few extra people, and honestly, it makes a big difference. It's not just the small amount of money, although together it does help for sure with the channel. It's also, the fact that you guys are supporting the electric revolution, and I really appreciate that. The growth in EV sales has slowed down versus last year, but it has actually grown. Records will be broken this year for new and used EV sales in the United States. United States, yeah, I'm not just talking about China. This is the US. The shift towards selling EVs hasn't come at the speed you would expect. But, there are some really good value electric cars that have come on the market over the last few months. We've got the new Chevy Equinox EV. The base model has, real world 360 miles of range in the real world. And that's $27,500 after the EV tax credit is applied. But even without it, it's only $35,000. Tesla Model 3 long range standard, that's the cheapest Model 3 that has real world range of around 380 miles of range. You can no longer say range is a problem. And I think more and more people are going to start recognizing that. According to recent data published by Cox Automotive, in October, there was 106,155 new electric cars sold in the US. That is a 2.3% increase from September and an increase of nearly 7% year to date. That performance means that in total, over the first 10 months of the year, so from January to October, more than 1 million new electric cars were sold in the United States. Now, in comparison to China, where 10 million were sold, it's not a huge number, but it's still pretty good. Electric models now make up a significant 8% of the entire new car market. That's an increase over last year. In October, used electric car sales grew by 40% or 39.5% versus October of last year. And new EV sales grew by 7% or 6.8% versus the same month last year. It's not the kind of growth that I was personally hoping for and expecting, but it's still growth. So the media are telling us EV sales are slowing down. That is completely false. Two of the reasons behind this growth are good incentives, more attractive leasing options, more models available. That's three reasons. Okay, I think I can come up with about 20 reasons why. Anyhow, Cox Automotive reports that incentives on new EVs in October represented 13.7% of the average transaction price. That trend has, of course, help some buyers to purchase an EV. But the average transaction price for EVs is still extremely high, partly as a result of vehicles like the F-150 Lightning, the Rivian R1T, the Tesla Cybertruck. The average transaction price is actually $56,900. That's a decrease of 1% from September, but it's still higher than the average transaction price for an internal combustion car. That price isn't the only factor driving new EV purchases. I think that we're going to see new EV purchases increase even if the tax incentives are removed, because I believe that the sheer number of models, the volume of models, and the improvement in those cars, we're seeing more and more range, we're seeing faster charging speed. It's going to encourage more people to buy an EV. Leasing has been a big option for owners. I did a video on leasing yesterday. The lease price for electric cars now is very similar, almost exactly the same, in some cases even cheaper for an electric car. So in my opinion, leasing an EV in the US right now actually makes a lot of sense. In addition to that, Carscoops.com says the used EV market is experiencing a boom. In October, 23,800 used EVs were sold, at about a 3% increase from September, but a 40% increase from the same month last year. Used EVs now make up 1.6% of the overall used car market. You're probably thinking to yourself, oh, it's going to take forever for the car fleet to be electrified. But if you look at Norway, of course, probably in the US's position, let's say 10 years ago. But looking at Norway's car fleet, it's very quickly electrifying the entire fleet. The average listing price for a used EV in October fell to $38,000, marking a 6.4% decrease compared to the previous year. So the average used EV price, $37,912. Pretty good, I think. That decline shows that new EVs are becoming more affordable, second-hand ones are becoming more affordable, and this increase in affordability will, I believe, help get more sales in the US, help encourage more people who have never owned an EV before to buy an EV. As the market for both new and used EVs increases, supply dynamics are shifting. Last month, the average supply of new EVs on dealer lots was 101 days. That's a 6.3% increase from the previous month. But it's a 9.3% drop from the same time last year. So 9.3% drop in terms of vehicles just sitting in dealer lots. That shows that new EV sales are actually coming through dealerships and they're selling more quickly. Used EVs had an average supply of 48 days. So used EVs are actually selling incredibly fast. Really, really big demand for used EVs. For only 48 days, which is, that's even less than, it's actually about the same as internal combustion vehicles in the US. So all in all, that means that EV sales in the United States have increased by 11% year over year. 11% growth is certainly not what I'd hope for, but it's definitely not a decrease or a slowdown in EV sales at all. That means about 9% of all cars this year have been fully electric. Yeah, things are definitely going in the right direction. And there is certainly the possibility of, I believe, more models coming to market and battery costs continuing to come down, meaning more models come to market which will be cheaper. We know that batteries are being manufactured all over the US at the highest pace, highest speed in history. There are so many battery factories that are being built right now. The US is probably building a bit too many. Crazy to think, but there's actually more battery factories planned, much more than there are in China, in America. So, that's great news. There's going to be more than enough batteries to electrify every single car and to build our energy grid storage all over the US. I don't think all of them will be built, but my point is here to say that as more battery factories are built, the price of those batteries comes down exponentially. EVs, therefore, based on many experts' numbers, will be cheaper than internal combustion within a few years' time. When that happens, we're going to see more and more people buy EVs, and the shift will be actually very, very fast, because that will coincide with more renewable energy, cheaper solar, and also it will coincide with vehicles with longer range, faster charging speeds, and a lot more chargers. There is literally more than 100,000 DC fast chargers that are scheduled to be built over the next 5 years in the US, meaning there'll be DC fast chargers everywhere you look. There'll be way more of them than there will be gas stations. That will help a lot of people who live in apartment blocks to go, you know what, it doesn't matter. I don't necessarily need a charger at home. There's a charging station 100 meters away from my house.